Hello everybody and welcome to my series of micro lessons. These short lessons will focus on common errors that are often made when writing literature essays and will give you advice and guidance on how to fix them. Today we're going to be looking at how to analyse a technique in literature and to discuss the effect of the technique. So we're going to be using George Orwell's 1984 and this is the question that I'm attempting to answer, and this is also the extract that I've taken the quotation from, just so you have an idea of how I've used the quotation. Now I'm not going to go over this in too much detail, but this yellow bit is the quotation that I've used, but when you see my example you'll realise I haven't used all of it because it doesn't need to be so long. So do check out my lesson on how to ensure the quotations you use are short, concise and relevant, so you understand exactly what I've done with this long quotation. So let's consider the problem. You're explaining the effect of a technique rather than analysing in depth and considering what it shows. You name the technique without discussing the effect, or you give the definition of the technique, e.g. a simile is used to compare, and you leave it there. So we need to do much more with the technique if we're really going to get marks for analysis. So what is the solution? Yes, name the technique that you've chosen that you can use, but then consider how that technique proves your point. Why did the writer choose this particular technique? What does it add to this section of the text? If it's a poem, what does it add to the line? What does it add to the stanza? What does it add to the overall meaning of the poem? What is the effect on the reader? How does it aid your understanding of the themes and the big ideas from within the text? So let's have a look at the error example. So we have the point here which addresses the question from the previous slide, and then we have our evidence embedded down here. Through describing Winston's job at the Ministry of Truth, Orwell reveals the power of the party and shows us how easily history, facts and the truth can be manipulated to fit in with the party's ideology. In Part 1, Chapter 4, Winston describes the process of continuous alteration of public documents. Orwell then uses an asyndetic list, which gives an overview of different types of media that is dealt with in the Ministry of Truth. So we've named our technique here, and then we've just given quite a brief explanation of the line itself. So it just gives an overview of different types of media. We haven't actually commented on this technique at all. So you've got to ask yourself, but why? Why does Orwell choose to include this type of list? Why not a list of 3? Why an asyndetic list which doesn't have any conjunctions? And why here? So we really want to answer those questions if we're to analyse in depth. So let's have a look at how to fix it. So what I've done here is I've highlighted for you every time we've mentioned something that links back to the question in green, so power, control, power. And then I've highlighted in yellow my own point. So my own point is how truth can be manipulated by the party. So we'll go from here. So this is where we've got our asyndetic list technique. Orwell continues this description by using an asyndetic list in order to highlight the extent to which information is controlled and manipulated by the party. So we're referring back to our point here. The list reinforces the idea that all forms of media are controlled, from newspapers to photographs. Furthermore, the use of asyndeton shows that there is no end to what the party can alter, as we are not given a final conjunction to suggest that we've come to the end of the list. Instead, the use of asyndeton implies that the party will continue to influence and have power over all types of information, regardless of the form. So note how we've said several different things about this one list, and they're all linked back to both the question and the point that I have made. So let's have a look at what we've done here. We've considered what is used. So that's our technique. So we name the technique, that's the what. Then we've considered why it's used. It's used to highlight the extent to which information is controlled. So try and use this formula when you pick out your technique. Then what is the effect of this particular technique? The list reinforces. The asyndeton implies. So here we were discussing the effect of this particular technique. And we've also linked it back. So how does it reinforce the point that we have made up here? So we haven't just named the technique, which is something that you really don't want to get too hung up on. Don't just name techniques as you move through an essay, you must discuss the effect of them. So we've gone through the why, the what, the how. So here are my top tips for you. Yes, name the technique, but once you've named it, you must do so much more with it. Consider what the technique is. Really ask yourself, what is a simile? What's its job? What's an asyndetic list? What's its job? What's a short sentence? What's its job? If you ask yourself those questions, then you'll be able to understand why it's been chosen by the writer and why it works in this particular example. Is it language? Is it structure? What does it do? How then has it been used by the writer? Think about these questions. Why has it been used? What is the effect? What does it add to the quotation or that section? What does it reveal about character, action, setting, relationships? How does it reinforce the point that you've made? How does it reinforce the message that the writer is trying to convey? How does it reinforce or reflect the themes? Ensure you return to the keywords in your point and the keywords from the question, or synonyms, as I have done. This will ensure that your analysis is focused and it's relevant and you're continuously bringing everything back to the question. So I hope you've enjoyed my micro lesson on how to analyze techniques. Thank you very much. Goodbye.